Professor O'Connell?
It seems Michael is unable to hear. Can you send a chat box message?
I have a hard time to see it.
Shinren, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I want to share this screen, but I'm having trouble to do it.
So actually, I wanted to hand over to Michael because he is MC. So, but I don't know if he is able to hear me.
Michael has my PowerPoint. Will you be able to do that, Michael? Share the screen? I have a trouble to do that. It doesn't show up, and even I have the file open.
So we have dropped him a direct message as well.
Cannot see it.
Shinren, you are facing some difficulty in sharing the document.
Yeah.
So,
Professor Shinren, if you can mail it to us.
Okay. All right. I will do that right now.
yes.
Should I send this to just the Center for Criminology?
Center, CCV, yes.
Okay, I'm going to do that. This one doesn't allow me to reply.
Good evening. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible now, Michael.
So with your permission, maybe start?
Yeah, you can start it.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to the closing session of the first International Victimology Colloquium. The CCB RGNUL is proud to host the 2022 VSA Victim Supports Award as a part of this colloquium. The award has been instituted by Victim Support Asia to provide direct financial assistance to victims of severe and/or violent crime and to victim support organizations or individuals in Asia. I invite Professor Michael O'Connell to kindly take over the session and to guide us through the same. Sir?
Do you have the PowerPoint now?
Yes. Ankit, can you share the PowerPoint? I think they are facing some difficulties.
Yes, sir. We're yet to receive it. We are
I just sent. I'm okay now.
Yes, sir. We received it, sir. We're just downloading it. One moment.
Go ahead, Michael. I'm ready. Did you see my PowerPoint? I just emailed.
Yes, ma'am, we have received it. We are just displaying it in a moment. Just one moment, ma'am.
Hello, Robert. Good to see you, Robert.
Robert, Professor Robert, you are muted. It's visible. It's visible now.
Yeah, so hello, Shin and colleagues. Wonderful to see you again, Shin, and everybody else. Good afternoon or good evening.
Good to see you too.
Good evening to you as well. I'm assuming I can be heard now.
Yes, Professor, you're perfectly audible. We can start now.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody, as we would say here in my home country, the land of the Kaurna people, Nina Mani, which means welcome, hello, we hope you are well. We're gathered for this part of this international event, generously hosted by the Centre for Criminology, Criminal Justice and Victimology, of which I express my gratitude to Professor Bajpai and all of the support staff that have helped us through 3 wonderful days of interaction and very thought-provoking presentations that I'm sure have contributed much to the field of victimology. But at this particular point in time, we're gathered for the purpose of presenting the Victim Support Asia Victim Assistance Awards. Now, those awards were established in 2020. They're established under the stewardship and leadership of Mr. Lee, who also was the founder of Victim Support Asia and the founder of the Victim Support Service in the Republic of South Korea. So I congratulate him on this initiative, and it's appropriate that he receives such acknowledgement. Now, these awards were to provide direct financial assistance to victims of severe and/or violent crime and victim service organisations or individuals in the Asia region. Now, Asia, according to the United Nations, takes in some 48 countries, and for those who may be interested, Australia is not one of those. In May 2021, 3 awards were given at the Victim Support Asia 2021 annual conference. And then following on, utilising international guidelines on victim assistance, and these awards have matured, they have evolved. And they are contextualised, mindful of the diverse and rather complicated and sometimes unforeseeable situations in reaching out to victims of violent crime in many of the Asian countries. Victim Support Asia, through its activities and through these awards, is committed to working with and helping victims through the rescue, cleanup and healing process. And these awards are integral to not only that outreach, and also the recognition and acknowledgement of individuals as victims as well as organisations, but also in promoting Victim Support Asia as a global leader within this region. I want to express my congratulations to Professor Shin Ren, who chaired and has chaired since the inception of these awards, the Victim Assistance Awards Committee, to Anuja Kapar from India, Sue O'Sullivan from Canada, Guy Nuet from Cambodia, and Prince Alabesto from the Philippines. And I do apologise if I've not pronounced those correctly. I have a mix of English and Australian tone in the way that I speak. But I pay my respect also to that committee, who in a very short period of time, as Professor Shin Ren will explain, have had to not only compile the nomination process, but also judge all the awards, notify those people who have been granted an award, and ensure that this evening's event can continue. So on that basis, with that small introduction, the floor is yours, Professor Shin Ren, And thank you to your committee as well.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. That is very important to provide a background information for VSA Victim Assistance Award. I wanted to, first of all, thank you, Professor Bajpai, to provide this opportunity, allow us to report and present this award to this year's recipient. I also wanted to thank you, President Mr. Lee, and for providing funding for this year's award. And it is my pleasure and honor to report the 2022 VSA Award Selection Committee's work and present award to this year's recipient. This year, committee had a very short timeline to revise the policy and the procedure rule and to send out a call for nomination and to solicit a submission and for receiving and review nomination and finally select the award winners. Despite the short timeline, I'm pleased to report that the committee has successfully selected 9 recipients for this year's award. This year's committee is composed by 5 active members, and Michael already mentioned the name, and my committee member's name is also on the screen. And Anuja Cooper from India and Sue Sullivan represent Canada. Dee Not represent Cambodia. Prince Abu Jasso and represent the Philippines. Since Prince is also nominated for 1 nominees, and he did not participate in the selection process, but he did participate in the early policy draft and approving process. This year, the committee received a total of 10 nominations from 5 countries in Asia. 9 out of 10 nominations received this year are in victim category, and they're representing 5 countries. And this PPT slides, would you please turn the page, next page. And this PPT slide provided the table with the detailed information about the nomination and also the recipients and the committee selected. And due to the policy restriction, one of the nominations for Outstanding Victim Service Award withdrew before the committee delivered the final decision for the selection. To maximize the utility of allocated funding for 2022, and also for Mr. Lee's advice that committee can exercise the discretion to increase and decrease the number of awards between the 2 categories. And if you remember last year, and when the policy guide was published, we designated 8 awards to victim and 2 awards to Outstanding Victim Service Award. And last year, when we received the nomination, and we had a large number of nominations for Outstanding Service Award, but a very small number for a Victim Award. Unfortunately, and we did not get the instruction, we can change the designation number of the category, and so therefore we only select the 2 awards for Outstanding Victim Service Award, and 2 for only one for Victims Award. And so this year, and we changed the policy, and so since we have more victims applied for award, and so committee decided to change the number, and so therefore, and in our review process, and we carefully reviewed all 9 files nominated for Victim Award, and so committee unanimously vote to award this year's award to all 9 nominated victims or their families. I also wanted to report it to the board, and in the review of process of those nominated victims, and if you look at the table and in this PowerPoint slides, and majority of them victim of sexual assault or victim of sexual abuse of minor or child, and they all suffered enormous injury and harm in the violent crime. And the committee is deeply moved by the sad story and the tragedy those victims has been through. And we're also deeply moved by victims' resilience and their persistence, and to fight for justice, and try to recover and from the past injury and harm. And so that is heartbreaking, and for many of our committee members, and just reading those files, and we're very much emotionally affected by their stories. And based on our review, and I'm pleased and to report that the following nomination has been selected for receiving this year's award. In order to protect the victim's identity, on this table, we do not provide a full name for those recipients, and only the name initial show up on this PowerPoint. And the first recipient is Miss G and C, and she was nominated by Haiyan Yu from China. And the second recipient is Mr. B, and nominated by Yugita Bayana, representing India. And Miss I. Miss I is also nominated by Yugita and Bayana from India. And PHCH is nominated by... Is something wrong? And Miss M is also nominated by Yugita Bayana from India, and PHCH is nominated by Ravindra, representing Sri Lanka. APC is nominated also by Ravindra, by representing Sri Lanka. Number 7 is also nominated by Yugita Bayana, representing India. XXL, nominated by Zukili and Yifi Ren, representing China. ASG is nominated by Prince Jose Alavajo, representing Philippines. If I mispronounced anyone's name, and please forgive me. And may I have the honor to ask several of those nominators present today at this meeting to speak on behalf of the recipients to accept the award. Since I received the confirmation at the very last minute, and I did not have time to check who is present here, let me call the name, and if you are here, and please just speak up. And may I ask Mr. Haiyan Yu from China to speak for Miss GSC? Are you here, Miss Yu? No response. Probably she could not get in the meeting. And Yugita, is Yugita here? No response. For number 4, number 5 recipient, Indica Sarah Vandana, Director of Policy and Program of Witness Protection Authority from Sri Lanka, just sent me an email a few minutes ago, and he will accept the award on behalf of the two victims. Are you there, Mr. Sirvandana?
Yeah, hi.
Yes, hi. Thank you.
On behalf of the National Authority for the Protection of Victims of Crime and Witness, Director General Mr. V.K. Ravindra, I am basically thanking you for this award for the authority. Actually, so we have received a lot of victims complaints here, and we selected the best out of those and fill the forms and send you. So on behalf of authority, actually we thank for the award for those two victims. One is from violent crime and the other one rape crime. So thank you very much, Singh and all, for this award.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and to accept the award. And next one is Miss Zhukong Li and Yifan Ren. Were you here? They're not. And Prince just sent me an email this afternoon, and he has trouble to log into the conference, and he could not get in. I assume he's not here. And so we only have one nominator here and to accept the award. And thank you for doing that.
If I may interrupt,
Yes.
Professor Principe Alpaheso has just joined the meeting.
Who is here?
Principe Alpaheso.
Oh, Prince is here. Okay. Hello, Prince. Are you here? Hello, Prince. Hello, Prince. If you're here and you can speak up and to accept the award on behalf of the nominee. I guess he cannot hear from me.
He's present, but he's muted. He just needs to unmute. There is also an S.W. Lee, L-E-E. I'm not sure if that's the person you were inviting to speak, who has also found themselves muted.
Is there any way we can ask them to unmute themselves so they can speak? I assume they can hear me. Hello, Miss Lee and Yifan Ren. She has the same family name as I have. And hello. All right. I will move on and to finish the report. And if they unmute themselves, I will give them a few minutes and to speak up. I ask all of you, and please join me to congratulate these 9 award recipients and their nominator for their successful application for this year's award. And let's give them a round of applause for their service and assistance to those 9 victims and beyond. And just prepare the application file is enormous work. And my committee members here, I see Anuja is here, and we all know how much work they have put in and to submit that application and within such a short period of time. And I also wanted to see that again, and while we're reading and review those nomination files, the committee was so moved by each heartbreaking story and inspired by victims' resilience and their family members' persistence to fight for justice and step up to help victims and their family afterwards. All committee members are very proud of work and the award we're able to deliver. It is important work for victims and their family, and is important for VSA. I'm pleased with the increased representation of this committee membership this year. And it has been my great honor and pleasure to work with each of my committee members. Without their dedication, support, and timely response and completion of review files, we will not be able to get this complicated and challenging job done so beautifully within such a short period of time. I would like to recognize my committee member, Sue O'Sullivan. Is Sue here? Anuja Cooper is here. I saw your screen, and thank you. And D, is D here from Cambodia? Prince, can you hear me, Prince? Once again, can you hear me? And we continue to recruit committee members to increase the diversity and the representation. We also urge all board members to help the committee spread the word for next year's nomination in hope to provide award to more victims and in more Asian countries. I also would like to report to the board that from the working with this committee for the past 2 years, we continue to refine the policy guideline and the procedure for the award. There are several issues that we continue to explore how to manage them better, and in order to provide more access and convenience for nominator and victims to apply for this award. And number one issue is that hopefully next year we can give people more time to prepare their nomination. And this year's timeline is only about 4 weeks, and the committee only had 3 days to review all 10 files. And so hopefully next year we have a longer timeline, and the committee come better prepared and to attract more applications. And number two, English translation of those supporting document is a formidable burden and for the nomination, especially many supporting document and evidence are in respective countries' official language, and they're not in English. And so this year we modified the policy and allow nomination to be submitted with only summary of those supporting document. And hopefully board recognize that. And so language translation is a challenge in the nomination process. And this year we recruit a committee member who are not currently on VSC executive board. I feel this should be in the policy and the procedure to allow non-board members to serve on not only this committee, but also other VSC committees. Number 4, and deliver of award the funding to the victim continue to be challenging in many countries, as many poor victims, and they may not have a bank account in their home country at all. Or if they have a bank account, normally the bank is in the rural area or small city and with a small operation that cannot accept the foreign currency. And so I had a discussion with Mr. Lee last year and to work out how to wire the money and transfer the fund to the victim, and how to verify whether indeed the victim received the funding, and that is another challenge. And so VSC board needed to consider, and if we needed to verify, and what a policy procedure need to be introduced. And final point I wanted to address is the protection of a victim's identity and privacy. All of us must keep this in mind, that victims' identities and personal information must be kept confidential in award nomination, selection, and the funding delivery process. All nomination files should not be shared with anyone revealed to the public, must be deleted from the computer after selection process. To conclude, on behalf of the committee, I would like to thank you, Mr. Lee, and the VSA board for giving us this opportunity and honor to serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shin, and thank you to your committee. And again, I reiterate my gratitude to our hosts in allowing us to present these awards and also to partner the Centre and University and the World Society of Victimology and other people in this wonderful event. But might I because today in the United States at least is National Map Day. And why do I mention maps? Well, maps are useful tools. They help us to plan out a journey. They help us to find our way to get from one point to another, or at least that's their intention. But it's not until you actually go down onto the ground, until you become entrenched in the actual territory itself, that you realise the realities that one has to face. You realise the burdens of the mountains one has to climb. You realise the depth of the valleys that one has to traverse, etc. Now, these awards are intended to acknowledge people who have taken that journey or people who have walked alongside others in that journey. Within Asia, there are many territories, as I mentioned before. There are some 48 different countries extending from what many describe as the Middle East right the way across into Oceania. And what we have seen here is a representation of awards being given to people from South Asia, from Asia proper in terms of China, and from Oceania. They represent by themselves the diversity of the region that is covered by Victim Support Asia. And Victim Support Asia itself is a confederation of organisations and individuals who are committed to exchange information, to share their experiences, and through that sharing and exchange of information, improve outcomes for victims in this part of the world that we share. So once again, I congratulate the awards committee. I thank them for the work that they have done. I recognise and also through these awards acknowledge the plight of those victims, each of whom has received what is, in terms of their experience, a small sum of money, but a sum of money that indicates that people do care, and we hope that it will go some way towards helping them deal with their circumstances and improve their future. I also, as the MC, once again reiterate my gratitude to Mr. Lee, who was instrumental, as I said in my opening remarks, in founding Victim Support Asia and establishing Victims of Crime Service, particularly for victims of terrorism in South Korea, and then taking his dream, daring to dream and reaching out to other people, and through his leadership, people embraced that. And as a consequence of embracing that, we now have Victim Support Asia. And I've shared with you the address for the website, should you wish to read some more information. On behalf of Mr. Lee, I have one more message, and I put this on the table because I'm conscious of the time and the generosity already extended by Professor Bajpai. But Mr. Lee is keen for the board of Victim Support Asia, of which there are quite a number of members present this evening. He's keen for the board to consider whether or not we should hold a conference in the fall of 2023, in other words, next year, and if so, what form should that conference take, given that we have now had a conference standing in our own right and a conference in partnership with another organisation. So we have experienced both ways of approaching it, and he would like the board to deliberate on that particular issue. And so I put it on the table now, not for discussion now because of I'm conscious of the time. Thank you, Professor Bajpai. Thank you to all of the staff at the Centre for Criminology, Criminal Justice and Victimology. Your generosity has helped us improve the lives of 9 victims of severe, serious violent crime. And we thank you for that. The floor is now yours, Professor Bajpai.
Yes, coordinators.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Michael O'Connell, for guiding us through the award ceremony. I now request Professor Dr. G.S. Bajpai, Vice Chancellor and Chairperson of the Centre for Criminology, Criminal Justice and Victimology, to kindly give the closing address for the first International Victimology Colloquium.
To all and all present. I take this opportunity to thank all the experts, faculty members, and invited guests to the, this closing session of the first International Victimology Colloquium on victim empowerment through legal and social initiative, which has been organized during April 3 to 5 in collaboration with the Indian Society of Victimology, World Society of Victimology, Victim Support Asia. After taking over at this university, right from the beginning, I had an idea that we need to set up an arrangement where active victimology dialogues could be facilitated. And in that context, we have set up a center called Center for Criminology, Criminal Justice and Victimology. And in order to expand our mandate through this center, we have contemplated an international victimology colloquium, which would be taking place now every year around same time. And through this platform, we would be in a position to transmit victimological research to the international fraternity and also making them familiar with important victimological developments which are taking place in different parts of the world. So I suppose this exercise has been a very fruitful trajectory, and I cannot thank enough to all my partner institutions and their representatives who have very generously, contributed to the through different sessions. I wish to point out that as many as 30 speakers in 6 sessions, there were moderated panel discussions, have brought some very, very insightful ideas, very thought-provoking sessions, and there are lots of takeaways. I can very briefly sum up some of the things which I consider very important. They may not be directly emerging from this, but I have inferred that these are the things which we have identified, and these are the things which we have understood to be of huge significance for the growth of victimology and victim justice globally. And if I put all 6 sessions together, it takes me to state that we have looked at all 4 dimensions of victimology, beginning from classical victimology, where we have looked at the basic idea of victimization, and all classical theorization and classical thinkers have been referred in this process. And I am conscious of the fact that many young victimologists, criminologists, law students must be listening. So they came to know about the contributions of classical victimologists, starting from Mendelssohn, Hentig, Landwurzer, Scheffer, Wolfgang, so many people. And in the second strand, we have touched through various sessions, we could pinpoint the idea of empirical victimology. As many of the presenters have indicated, some data, some important research. So we were in the domain of empirical victimology. That is very, very important. The third dimension which I could recognize emerging from this debate was application victimology. I think this, the constellation of speakers in this colloquium involves practitioners, lawyers, judges, So they have brought a lot of application victimology into discussion. And this identification of application victimology is now gaining ground in many countries, because ultimately we want to translate victimological knowledge into practice. Fourth dimension was critical victimology. So victimological knowledge was utilized by many presenters in order to critique the conventional laws, conventional practices, social practices, and in order to generate fresh ideas vis-a-vis victim. Because I could hear that the agency of victim was discussed, privacy was discussed, rights of the victims were discussed. These discussions are actually in the domain of critical victimology. And also, I find 6 very important core areas which I wish to very briefly point out in less than 10 minutes. First is the issue of utilizing victimological knowledge for pragmatic objectives of de-victimization, criminal justice reforms, and shaping the victim assistance policies, including fulfilling the international and domestic obligations as entailed in various international treaties and domestic laws. So we got a lot of material to think over as to how the existing victimological knowledge can be translated into some pragmatic objectives. Second is impacting different kinds of practices, more particularly factoring the victimology into contemplating, devising and implementing criminal laws. I do not find much discussion even in the global victimology as far as the impact of victimology in contemporary criminal laws is concerned. Here, through some discussion, I could notice this interesting outcome where we are contemplating and recognizing and rather mapping the manner in which victimology has impacted the conceptualization of criminal laws, execution of criminal laws, where victimological knowledge was being factored. So I can foresee very easily that tomorrow we would be very satisfied people when we would be in a position to point out that the victimological researchers have facilitated criminal law reform or has resulted into the conceptualization of new criminal laws which are essentially in the welfare of the victims of crime. Nurturing and shaping of the installation of what I call victim jurisprudence to provide a more informed logic and basis to carry out reforms in laws and practice. I always say that as far as criminal law or criminal justice scholarship is concerned, they are looking forward victimology to provide a solid victimological jurisprudence which can be invoked whenever a decision to reform a problematic criminal law is undertaken. So there is already emergence of victimological jurisprudence. This language or this parlance is not very much used in many places, but we in India have deliberately coined this term apart from victim justice, victim jurisprudence. So identification of victim jurisprudence is another facet which I note with a lot of satisfaction as far as this colloquium is concerned. Utilizing criminological research in structuring the practices like access to justice, restorative justice, victim rights, participatory rights, and other victims assistance program. That is about that research which can help these practices in terms of improving them. Also, which is very important, is victim advocacy. I find when a discussion on restorative justice and access to justice was happening, we were trying to understand that if at all we want the community resources or state resources to be mobilized for the protection, assistance, and care for victims of crime, essentially we are talking a program or a mission called victim advocacy. I have said in the beginning, in my opening remarks, that the India has a very robust system of law schools. And if I am starting a victim advocacy program in my law school, as well as I am developing a blueprint for victim advocacy, because law students are more and more keen about undertaking those measures through which the victim support services can be organized, our victim protection can be actualized, and there are several ways through which the students can support some of these beginnings. They call it victim advocacy. So we need to identify, plan, structure, monitor, and execute some properly designed victim advocacy program. That would be a very, very tangible outcome as far as this kind of discussions are concerned. Last and second last, organization of victim services. Now, victim services organization is being debated at different level. We have now examples from neighboring country like Sri Lanka, Indica is here, and from other places where national victim, support organizations are being constituted. So I think in several countries, there is a huge scope at the national level through government resources to organize a national victim service authority, which can provide a network of services at grassroots level, including involving non-government organization to provide much needed service to the victims of crime. And last, what I gather, there is a need to document and share the best practices in the field of victimology, which is happening in different countries, so that we do not start from scratch. Rather, we can benefit from the experiences of various countries. Though in some way this information is already available, but I think there is a need to document this information. I remember Handbook of Victimology being a very, very useful resource, but I think that is quite old now. In 21st century, there are lots of development. Different countries have experimented at different level. Like Professor Sarah was discussing the community mobilization in case of her country. And I feel such experiments need to be documented as best practices so that in all other jurisdictions and countries, some inspiration could be instilled. So taking together, we got immensely benefited from the organization of this seminar, and I think I have thanked enough, and I can't really thank enough to all the members, all the speakers. Actually, the speakers who are on the screen are who were on the screen. They were all my good friends, whether they are in World Society of Victimology or Victim Support Asia or from other countries in different capacities. I have been meeting them. So it means a lot that you have provided a much needed support to this program. I feel that this activity must be a continuous process, and I will make sure that we carry out more and more work. And we have already constituted an advisory board of CCV, where I would be organizing soon very meetings so that we can plan some specific researches and consultancy programs with the help of the guidance of the experts on the board. I especially thanks Mr. Lee from Victim Support Asia for his constant faith and contribution in supporting, promoting, and encouraging the activities of CCV. Whenever I share some information, immediate response I receive from his office that this is extremely good. And I must say last word about the award which has been just given. And this award was again the idea which was contemplated by VSA and especially Mr. Lee. And I feel that while, as Michael was saying, 9 victims we have, I think while we have given award to only 9 victims, but we have sent a message that we care, we empathize, and we provide you a fellowship. And this award is not simply a monetary assistance that we are rendering to the victims. It is a message that a group of people is committed to you. We are here for handholding. We are here to care. And I think this message would go really long way in terms of inspiring many other organizations to come forward for the requirement of victim support. And I also have one very important information. I must say that I must share that very recently we have now shifted that our Journal of Victimology and Victim Justice to this university. Now this has been transferred from my previous university where I was working. So now this journal will be published by Center for Criminology, Criminal Justice and Victimology officially. And I'm very happy to share that we are receiving a lot of calls as far as this journal is concerned. So I call upon all the partners to please regularly contribute through your research, through your article, to this journal. Soon we would be sharing this information to one and all. And another piece of information I have, in the first week of November this year, we would be hosting the biennial and international conference of Indian Society of Victimology at the campus of Rajiv Gandhi National Law University. And before, I would definitely write you all, but I would request that you can please block your dates. This conference is going to be in physical mode. So I would be looking forward, many of you, to please, make sure that you attend this very important gathering. Many of you have already attended at other places in India, but we are all set to make this conference a very, very exciting one. And there would be many more things to be added to the whole structure of this conference. My team is there and they are already very excited about this conference. Last but not the least, a couple of, words of, appreciation to the people who are sitting in the center of this table around. They look 4, but they are more than 40. So we have a very, very committed band of young teachers, scholars who could make it possible. I was not initially sure whether we would be in a position to organize a massive 3 days conference, though online, but involving some very reputed people. But the convener of the conference, Dr. Ivneet, you can say hi, Ivneet, because probably, yeah, she is Ivneet. She has been working constantly with her persistence to all and made sure that everything falls in line. And she was supported by these 3 coordinators who are on the screen, Dr. Shruti Goyal, a criminal law assistant professor, Dr. Gurneet, and Ankit Kaushik. They are academically inclined, they are budding victimologists, and they are very keen to take the mission of victimology forward through the activities of this center. And this team you would again see in the next phases or in next installments of our activities, including the conference that I have mentioned. So I cannot name all the people who are associated with this team, but it's a big team and they have been working very professionally and very competently. So big thanks from my side to you, officially and unofficially both. Wonderful. So I close with this and wish you all the best. Stay safe, stay happy, and keep facilitating, encouraging, and promoting us. I would be connecting you again very soon in different capacities for different requests. So please be considerate to us. Many thanks again for all presents here today.
Before you leave, Professor Bajpai, I'm going to exert my authority as the MC and invite Professor Robert Peacock to speak.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Bajpai and Michael. Thank you so much, Professor Bajpai, for this pioneering event. It has been very exciting from day one to be part of this, and you have certainly demarcated the annual calendar, and you can most certainly also count on our participation and support. So this has been really a wonderful opportunity for the World Society of Victimology to support, and we're really looking forward to continue with this great tradition, and also to see everybody else at the conference in San Sebastian soon. Thank you so much, Professor Bajpai, and all of your team and support. Thank you.
Remarkable job you have done, Professor Bajpai.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Congratulations to you and your team. Excellent team. Thank you.
I can keep, if any other member has to speak up, I have no problem. This is open for all.
May I just, on behalf of all the speakers and all the scholars that have contributed, address very briefly the rest of our audience. We've expressed our gratitude in various ways, but it was actually John F. Kennedy who said that we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live them. And this evening we've heard a summary of all of the lessons that have been presented to you as an audience over the past 3 days or 3 nights, if you're down under like me. And the appreciation that we would like as scholars is for you to take to heart by expressing your gratitude and helping us to improve outcomes for victims, whether they be victims of crime, victims of disaster, or some other source of victimization. So thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share my passing thought.
Thank you, Michael. It means a lot you have said. So unless any other member has anything to say, we can probably close. So over to you, Ankit, for formal closure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I take this opportunity to thank all the resource persons, panelists, and moderators without whom this program could not have been successful. I would also like to thank the participants in the audience for your kind support and your participation. Without such encouragement, we would not be inspired to keep conducting such fruitful and enriching events as the Center for Criminology, Criminal Justice, and Victimology. I would also like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our partner organizations, the World Society of Victimology, Victim Support Asia, and the Indian Society of Victimology as well. I also thank our Professor Dr. Chokalingam for attending all of these sessions without fail and for being there to support us throughout this entire event. With the permission of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. G.S. Bajpai, I now declare the first International Victimology Colloquium closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.